whenever we explain that there are like at least 4 different types. The principle base, whenever like we do an invitation to comply, the ones that help you to understand, a framework to report, and therefore the last one is the certification whenever you have to comply certain type of procedures, measurements, and everything, right? So we have seen what could be the limits of adopting these CSR standards, because not everything is perfect. And as well, we have seen what could be the possible benefits of adopting one. Obviously, this depends on several variables, that how open is your organization, how much are you willing to spend, how much are you willing to learn on this. So there are like different aspects that we need to have in mind in order to match a specific need and a specific CSR standard. The good thing is like there's a lot of on the market. So it was an invitation to take a look of what it is and keep learning on this, because it's getting really complex. Now, the only thing that was for sure that we can say, CSR standards are a powerful, very powerful learning tool. Whenever you don't have a lot of ideas, you just can go there and get inspiration from there. You follow it, and then you get into another world whenever complexification starts to be more and more interesting, and therefore the possible benefits for your organizations. The second thing we need to have in mind is like these CSR standards, most of them should just focus on a specific issue rather than the big problem. An exception of the big corporation, maybe ISO 26000, all of them are kind of very focused. So most of them, they just focus on a specific issue, and they're not going to solve the big problem. We have seen the case of the organic certification, right? It's not solving what is happening with the plastic issues or the social issues on the south of Spain. Now, we didn't see the complexification of it, but I was thinking, I think starting with something simple like principle-based, like the case of Global Compact, I think it's a very good start, right? When your organization doesn't have a lot of idea and then you just want to get into something, I think the Global Compact is a great way to do it. You get into the local networks, you understand, and you start to be more easy with different terminology. But for you to finish and keep learning on this, I think ISO 26000 is a great tool. Obviously, you can switch these two. I think this is the level of complexity are very, could be similar. Therefore, you jump into the next step to report what it should be reported. Okay, and this is whenever GRI initiative is very interesting. And whenever you are committing to principles, you understand the terminology, you are ready to be transparent with the market, in that moment is whenever you can start to do the certifications. I think this is a very orthodox way of a very simplistic way of seeing things. But the ultimate goal, I think so far, is to get this certification B Corp. Okay, this is how I see the different steps. Obviously, this is just my humble opinion, and you know better your organizations than me. You might know better these CSR standards than me. So this is just, I think, by the complexification, it's a good way to prioritize the different CSI standards. Now, specifically after the CS standards, this session is the 9th session, and whenever it's like, okay, what other inspirations, what we can do so far? And this is why I like this session. And because we're going to be speaking about innovating business model. And it's like, okay, we have done all these things. We have done the project, we have done the learning organization. We know how to implement it. We know Kotler's model, the example of Unilever. We have done the CSR standards to reinforce these communication issues. And therefore, what else we can do? I think session 1 to 8, we were asking you to do this analysis, think about these, like do these type of reports and take a look of these standards. And then it might be kind of confusing. There was a lot of information there, but it was kind of how complicated this could be, right? And I have the impression that one of the most interesting things about this field, like it can give you hope. And that's why we are gonna get this session to finish the lectures, right? It's like the intention of this session is to kind of reinstall the hope on these issues, because not everything is lost, not everything is difficult. We are just understanding few issues and that why there can be a successful factors. So today's specifically session's objective is going to be reinforce your project by looking at 2 things. The first one like CSR projects that they can have their own model. It's not just an extension of what you do. There might be a little social enterprises within your organization. I think it's a very powerful example. And the second one is like, if you cannot do it, it's gonna be a good idea that you start to make alliances with people that they do. And therefore you can take advantage of numerous features for you to move on this CSR sustainability direction. Now, you have done the analysis, you have done the proposition, right, of your materiality projects, and then within the implementation, you can fly, right? But we have seen specifically two things. You can either minimize your negative externalities or maximize your positive externalities. A little bit what we have seen with Unilever, right? They minimize the environmental impact and they increase the social impact. But during sessions 1 to 8, we were too much focused into minimizing the negative externalities, right? Thanks to the materiality analysis. So you have selected a few ones that most of it is minimizing what you do bad. But wait, what could happen if we just move on to maximizing these positive externalities? What we can do in this case, and this is today's sessions, how we can maximize our positive externalities. Now, whenever we get these two, minimizing negative impact, maximizing positive impact, there's another two dimensions. We can do it by ourselves, or we can get the support of someone else to do it. So we can do it either internally or externally. So again, if we would like to see this on a schema, we are doing the implementation to propose an improvement, right? And how are we going to do it? By minimizing or maximizing, and then we can do it internally, externally. And so far, what we have seen is just how you're going to minimize internally your projects. So this session is going to be about how you can maximize by doing also internal things and playing around. And this is going to give you a much more powerful impulse to your organizations. So I would like to start with a definition about social innovation, right? And I would say a good CSR sustainability program requires what we call social innovation. I think we cannot do the same things and expecting different results, right? It's not going to change. The context changes really slow. So we need to foster this change. And how? By social innovation. So Davis and White started to define social innovation as like, they have a positive social impact while promoting the core mission of a business. So did you see here on this definition, we have implicitly speaking about positive impact and the mission of a business. This has to be interrelated. So philanthropy is good, but this is not going to go really far with this. So I would like to start, instead of digging on definitions, I would like to start with a good example of social innovation of CSR sustainability in a big company. I know that some of your critics are like, what we always use big companies first, because those are usually the ones that have resources to set up what is going to be a good practice. Second, those are the ones that we have the information from. And third one, those are the ones that you are most familiar with. So those are the main reasons. And I would like to speak more about, we will speak about a little social enterprises, but usually that's why we always pick big ones. Now, I know that you know Danone, right? This big company, and that they do yogurts and they just have water. They have big things, right? That most of us we know. And whenever you start to do a CSR analysis, you start to see how, like, in general, the CSR, or what we call ESG, environmental, social, and governance performance, is really high, 74 out of over 100. So they're like basically the best on the sector. And even they have a lot of controversies. Whenever you can start to look at their materiality analysis, they barely some of them. They've been working on for at least 10 years on materiality issues, what that matters, right? So I would say they're not perfect, but this is one of the most social and environmental friendly companies that I can get to analyze. And specifically, if you take on the other side, they have been also gaining a lot of market shares, and the market price on the stock market has been increasingly augmenting. Obviously, the last year was at the end of the year impacted everyone, but did you see every time they're just going up? They're just going up. So it is They are like good socially, and they are doing good financially. So I think it's a good combination of both that enables this virtuous cycle, right? And as we have seen it yesterday, B Corp and Danone is the first big company, the one is in the stock market, that has been awarded with this certification. Not all the business lines has been certified because Danone is very complex, but they are moving into more and more certification. But finally, they got the certification. Is the first enterprise that get on the stock market, and they have it's a good award. Now, remember the definition of Davis and White. It was like it has created positive social impact while promoting the core mission of a business. So whenever we would like to think about what is the competitive advantage on the market of Danone, right? And therefore, how can they maximize these positive externalities based on this competitive advantage? Whenever you start to think, what they do good? They do marketing good. They have a very efficient supply chain. They have a lot of resources, but the main competitive advantage, why they are well known on the market, it's because they do yogurts, right? And they do good yogurts. Well, depending on the definition of good, they do yogurts. They're well known, and they started to make a very interesting alliance with Grameen Bank. Grameen Bank, we will speak more about this. It was funded by Muhammad Yunus, and this is a professor of economy that was born in Bangladesh. So once he met the PDG of Danone, and they decided in 2005 to make a joint venture to attack malnutrition, specifically malnutrition on the kids on Bangladesh. Did you see? It was like not the world, it was very specific with the kids in Bangladesh. So they started to make alliances, and that's how they have founded Danone communities, right? It was Grameen Danone. And how they were creating value. They were basically doing a little yogurt that has all the requirements that if you take it for at least 3 months as a kid, if you take it more than 3 times a week, you will be over the malnutrition is the line. So this is amazing because they're at the same time, they're attacking poverty, zero hunger, well-being, and decent work and economic conditions. But wait, what does that work? How does that work? How did they get into this point? First thing that they did, they create a joint venture. They create another organization that start to deal with all these things. So instead of just being Danone who deals with it, or Grameen Bank who deals with it, they create a joint venture, and that's how they call it, Grameen Danone Company. And this is Professor Muhammad Yunus explaining what have they done and what is a social business. Can you hear, or at least most of you, can you hear it?
Yes.
So it's I don't know if you know this case, but I think it's very interesting how they started with the financial model, which I think is one of the first key success factor of this joint venture between Danone and Grameen Bank. From one side, we have microcredits that do give them to the distributor, and on the other side, you have super social funds. What is the social funds? Imagine there was like this conversation between Mohammed Yunus and the Danone stakeholders, shareholders in this case, and say like, okay, therefore we're gonna launch this joint venture of Danone Grameen Bank. Whenever we will create this yogurt, and we need money for us to start the production. So if you want to invest in this, you want to invest in this, and everyone is gonna be saying, yes, we want to invest in this. But wait, you cannot take any dividends back. And the shareholders were, wait, what? So I'm taking the risk of giving you my money without having any benefits on this? And Muhammad Yunus said, yes, exactly. You can get all that initial investment if everything goes well. You can take every last penny of it. But once this is over, all the financial dividends will invest itself on the company to keep growing. And eventually, if we sell it, we will put like we sell it, and then you will get the amount of percentage that you own. But that's it. There is no financial dividends every year until the very last of their decades. So all the investments we will get, all the dividends will get to reinvest to make these enterprises have more social objectives. And then the non-shareholders is that, okay, and I think 98% of the non-shareholders decided to invest on this with a non-financial interest. So did you see? It was very clever how it was not just they get the first initial investment to launch this project, but they got created this fund that went public. So more people can just join and invest in them by doing good things. So I think that was the first key factor, financial model. The second one, they have done an innovating product. Okay, by all the resources that Danone has, and this is whenever we get closer to the business model, they have experts on nutrition who said like, okay, if we do this Shakti yogurt, right, we can put it iron, zinc, vitamin A, and iodine. That's what these kids need, and we will put it in a way that it will be eatable for the kids in some sort of way. And we can do, if we achieve a specific number of yogurts per year, we can achieve these economies of scale that allow us to make these. I think there's price sale is less than 10 cents. It will be affordable. So we need to get into this model. So it was an innovation model, an innovating product whenever they can fight malnutrition and hunger on the level world. So they've done it. So what is the current situation? We have launched a project, right? Thanks to these Danone shareholders that decided to invest in it. They have a huge fund. Therefore, this guy started to make this innovating product like Shakti, right? Thanks to they already have an organization. But the point is, how are they going to get to the market, and specifically the rural population? So whenever you have, actually in the market, it was a huge discussion at the time, because whenever you have urban populations, you have these supermarkets, right? So whenever it was really easy, if they have fridge, right, you just put it there, and then you have a specific place to do it whenever they have electricity to not make the yogurt go rotten really fast. So urban population was fine, but it was just 20% of what they needed to reach. What they really needed to reach, it was the rural population. Rural population, sometimes these access, it was impossible. And specifically, they were asking, what are going to be our distribution points? And imagine, okay, we might find some of them that they may have electricity to put some fridge. And then, do you think those people that are selling other type of groceries, will they buy these products or not? And the question is, will they have enough money to do it or not? So that was a huge problem. And then rural population, that it was like 80% of the market, how are they going to get it? The hint, you create these distribution points. How you're going to create these distribution points? Thanks to microcredits. I know that some of you are experts on finance, but I just want to make a little recap how what is a microcredit. First, they did microcredits to local distributors, right? And basically, microcredits are these type of banking services to very low-income people. In some people, some places, it's not really easy to save money because you don't have a bank, you don't have an automat like a distributor, right? An ATM to get the cash out of it. So the access to banking services that we do is not the same ones that you have all over the place. So these type of new finance services are made for people who are really low income. And it's all about small credits. As Mohammed Jen said, like it's $1 that you spend and that has like endless life. So instead of you asking for $1,000 or $1 million, you're gonna ask for $20 per day, right? And then you will have a very small or no interest rate on it, right? So if I ask you for $20, then you're gonna give me $20 and I'll give you maybe $20.50. With percentage, it might be huge, but in real income, like nominal, it's not really important. And it's payable at the end of the day, maybe a week, maybe in the month, because now we're getting to get used to the big credits that you pay for 25 years of your life whenever you're buying a house. No, in this case, it's like in the morning, you lend me $20, I go and I buy the yogurts, right? And then I can sell the yogurts and I will get $30 for the yogurts, right? And I'll go back at the end of the day and I will pay you these $20.50 and I'll get to the rest. And with that money, I'm not gonna need $20 tomorrow. I'm just going to need $10 tomorrow. And then day by day, microcredits coming off and off. And they have realized that thanks for this Grameen Bank, that 98% of the women were paying specifically on time. So they decided to create, and they have really, they don't have an easy access to the job market in Bangladesh by cultural, social, and maybe political issues. So they decided to make this program just with women, because they're like very onto the point. They were really hardworking, so they didn't have access to the job market. So thanks to this, you have huge funds, you have good innovating product, and then thanks to the microcredits, you keep the distribution flowing. So at the same time, this is the third success factor, microcredits to local distributors. And then in that case, you can get into little towns. Like these ladies, sometimes they go from house to house, they know the families. So they just go there and sell these very cheap yogurts, right? And there's no distribution points. Did you see, like, these bags are completely hermetic, so they can keep the fridge for a long time. And then you basically put some cubes of ice, and then you can go for a few hours. So at the same time, they're offering jobs at people who have never had it before. So you're selling your products at the same time that you're creating your own distributors and offering microcredits start coming on this. That was a genius idea. And whenever these microcredits started to grow, let's put it in a way, instead of just them doing it, like as we have seen it, they have a program to include beggars or homeless people to help them doing this type of selling. So you are attacking poverty at the same time that you're attacking malnutrition on the same project. And this is, I think it was a very powerful idea because of this third success factor. So the results now reaches about 300,000 children in Bangladesh, right? And they have developed a network of producers at the same time. They have local producers, and they have like 500 different local farmers, 200 gramming ladies, with 117 itinerant drivers, right? They like, that is the people who are in the van, people that goes from door to door to distribute this product. So whenever I see this the first time, I was looking, yeah, sure, let's see how it works. No, I think it's a great idea. They have great keys, success factor. But then recently I was looking for some papers about malnutrition in Bangladesh, and this is what I found. On a very good journal, which is called Global Food Security, which is a scientific journal. Whenever there's like a scientific committee before you publish something, there has been a publication in 2017 by Nisbet and company about how they really have shown improvements on nutrition. And whenever you start to see these numbers in Bangladesh, this is the first highlight, is Bangladesh nutrition have been among the highest in the world. I'm not saying that Danone was the only one who started with this in 2006, but they started to create an ecosystem whenever government, politics, other social enterprises, a lot of NGOs were getting into these because Danone was there. And if Danone was there, that means there are coming of some resources, and then we want to implement this change. So I'm not saying the problem is completely solved, because there are like still many millions of children in Bangladesh, right, who are like in face of this poor nutrition. And there are like another type of interventions that are needed. But everything starts with the health. And I think one of the key points is nutrition. I think they have attacked a huge materiality issue, not by minimizing their negative effects, but by maximizing their positive impact. So whenever you start to see the graphs on this article, the blue ones are in 97, right? And then the green ones are the most recent ones. So how like this, the moderate or severe malnutrition has decreased almost in 35%, how the wasting on moderate, it has been decreasing again, and how underweight has been decreasing in more than 40%. So these are like struggling numbers that whenever you see, like, how can a single meeting, it was maybe a random meeting between Mohammed Yunus and the CEO of Danone, can foster not only a CSR program, but it was a social enterprise. It was so powerful and it was so well taught that there were like a huge impacts on a single country that is one of the most populated countries in the world. So This example, I think whenever you have created a CSR sustainability project, you can fly it. You can fly very high, and then you can do like we can promote changes. But whenever you get strategic alliances with, in this case, the Grameen Bank and the Danone, you are rocketing your impact. You really can increase your impact. And it's not just a single project. You start to do like you have a single model, right? Whenever you have innovative product, you have financial model, price strategy, supply chain. Whenever you're in doing into this, you have something really powerful, right? I think there are at least 4 key success factors: innovating product, using your competitive advantage. Second, financial model that starts, that can be divided into, at the beginning, all the money that you need to start, that this is the social fund that they have created. And then the second one, a microcredit, it's a financial model that might let your distributors to get you access into this market. So they are like challenging what we know about supply chain. They're working with local producers at the same time that they have created a distribution of local networks. At the same time, this wouldn't be working if you don't have this price strategy whenever you need to achieve a specific type of volume. So I think this is an excellent benchmark to understand how powerful these alliances can be to increment the impact on your CSR project. By the way, this guy, Muhammad Yunus, I don't know if you know it, but it was the Nobel Prize of Peace, and he was the founder of Grameen Bank in Bangladesh in 1980s, whenever he started to retake the old idea of microcredits and put it into the system that we know. So it's very well known about all these social businesses. Is that, I think it's a very powerful example. So I would like to take at least a few minutes to discuss this. What do you think? It makes sense, doesn't? Do you think there are limitations? Have you seen it? Do you know it before? Guys?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Elinor.
Yeah, I never saw this specific case before, but I saw a lot of Danone projects, and it's really one of the companies that make us dream in terms of corporate social responsibility. So it's interesting to see this case again. But in the last week, the CEO of Danone was removed of this function. So I wanted to know if you know a bit more about this subject, because I think it's really interesting.
I completely agree with you. I think that has like something else to do with it. I think he was he has been there for a while, so I think it was a good move to replace. Even Danone is a changing company, doesn't always represent what the CEO is. I think it was an iconic figure that is getting into the end. So I think it's a good moment to see what else we can do. And it was nothing, at least that I know. I'm not a Danone shareholder whatsoever. So I don't know if it's related, because this project was launched in 2005. Imagine, that was 15 years ago. And we start to see the results, I mean, or at least confirm the results by this scientific publication 12 years after. So it's a good question, Elinor. I'll take a look to see if there's any relationship between these two.
Okay.
Any other comment? Do you like it? You don't? I'm not. I don't have. If you don't want to buy Danone, it's fine. I'm just saying it's a very interesting example. Okay, we can comment about this unless there was something that nobody raises your hand. Really, you don't want to react to this beautiful case? Okay, I'll move on. Please interrupt me anytime. So guys, I think it's a very good example, but not all the enterprise have this vision, resources, willingness to change things. So, but I wanted to show you how important is to create these networks of these alliances to support yourself and someone that actually knows about it. And so you don't have to do it all yourself. There are at least 3 main big reasons why you can get yourself supported with some other actors. The first one is like the know-how. And it's not about like constructing about what you know good, what is your competitive advantage on the market. No, but sometimes whenever you want to attack a materiality analysis, it's someone that you need to, they need to know the geographic location that you are, right? It's someone that you need, they need to understand better. So that's one of the main reasons, and the know-how. Time frame, sometimes it takes a lot of time for you to learn on these. We have seen the civil learning tool, Nike took like about 10-15 years to do it. We have seen that thanks to CSR standards, you can increase this learning curve faster. But whenever you do analysis immediately, obviously it will have costs associated with this, but thanks to this, depending on the legal figures of the person that or actors that you will do this alliance with, you can get as well fiscal advantages, because you can get supported with an NGO that will help you to move on things, and then you can decharge a little bit of your taxes there. So there's like good reasons to do it, and therefore I would like to speak about social enterprises. We have seen a little bit the introduction with Mohammed Yunus. I started to speak about social business models. And now social enterprise, it's an organization that they see a market opportunity. And they do not rely on donations. They produce their own money. At the same time, they attack social and environmental issues, usually by an innovation. So if we would like to understand the spirit of the social enterprise, like these three at the same time, I think it's going to be hard to attack a market opportunity and doing social environmental issues without doing an innovation. It's possible, but we will see some examples. So market, issues, innovation, all of these three together, that's what makes a social enterprise. And this, why am I saying this? Because our social enterprise are like potential alliances for corporations and hasn't been not yet explored yet this. So let's put it in this way: social enterprise or social business, as you want to say it, it's a business that has specific social objectives. By whenever you construct this social enterprise, you have to say, what is your purpose, right? And they balance between profits and objectives. Sometimes by status, you can set up all the dividends of this organization are going to get into the reinvest to expand it, like the case of Grameen Bank. And you can say like 50% will go to the shareholders and 50% to reinvest, or 80-10, or 80-20, 90-10. It's up to you. So they balance these profits with social and environmental benefits. That is the key. So now we have seen an alliance, how they started from a alliance, right? This project that grabbed them. Now, I'm sure, have you ever seen this image before? I'm sure that you have, or at least some similar, like there's a lot of plastics at the ocean. So there was like this little entrepreneur in Australia who started to think about this way and said like, wow, how can we do business out of it? Obviously recycling, but it's not too clear. So that's why innovations are very handy. So we have what we call this enterprise that is called Green Batch. And then we're going to see what they do thanks to a new innovation that has been just there to the market. What do you think? I think it's a great idea, right? You're recycling bottles to make 3D print filaments and use it for pedagogical advices instead of going like just do local solutions to local problems. Okay, I think it's a great idea, and but I think there's something missing to Green Badge. I think the idea is great. How they started to make this triangle between recycling plastic, 3D printing, and pedagogical issues. I think this cycle it's amazing, but I think what it's missing it's still very low scale, right? Very low scale and acting just in a local way, which is a good thing. That's how most of the social enterprises start. So I would like you to imagine the potential. We have Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, that they have a lot of resources, right? They're like one of the most profitable industries on the market, and they have a lot of negative externalities that they need to be accountable for. So imagine if Coca-Cola in a given moment say, okay, Green Badge, let's do a partnership, you and me. I will finance you, and then you start moving on your way, right? With the things that you know to do, you recycle, then you to do these 3D these plastic filaments to be able to set up on the 3D printers, and on the actual context, we can be tackling a new market, right? All the medical equipment of the single use. So I think it will be very powerful how these little social enterprises can start to be developed by big corporations. We still not get there because first, it's hard for big corporations to accept their materiality issues. Second one, these social enterprises, they don't have this business vision. They're like entrepreneurs that they really like what they do. They're happy to do it in a low level. And I think there's like no communication between these two exist. So I think it has a great potential that hasn't not yet been explored. So that's what I wanted to show you, the future CEOs of the market. Now, I think, again, the small scale is the big problem. Now, this is one of the examples of social enterprise, right? I'm going to give to you another one that might be more modern, more digital if you want it. So whenever you see this image, the type of things that produce like doesn't have any sense, right? How you can be throwing money away from your toilet. And I can tell you something, doesn't make sense for anyone, for a lot of people, and especially, but it happens. So that's why Excel Materials Exchange has born. And it's a platform whenever they put valuable resources from one people that has like just wasted to the other one that can be used as a single thing. So this is the presentation of excess materials in Netherlands in 2017, I think. So they were asking for foundation on this specific summit on 2017. I think it was very successful. So basically what they do, they do kind of a passport for the resources that you can use. They start to track and trace all the materials going back and forth, they evaluate it on the market, and they start to do the matchmaking of the ones that you can use it or not. So it's kind of a Tinder for wasters and the industry, right? That in one side, we have a lot of resources that we consider as waste, but they might not be a waste. They're like invisible. So it's impossible for the other ones to see that what are we throwing to the garbage, to the toilet, while there's a lot of people, a lot of industry that can use this specific material with no transformation to create value. So I think it's very, very interesting how they're just trying to make this platform, they have done this platform to make this match between waste and prime materials. So again, if we would like to compare with Danone, they have done an innovating product, right? Thanks to the digital transformation and the supply chain, they have put this platform whenever they have wasters, buyers in contact. They don't have this huge financial model. That's what they are doing. These stories of crowdfunding. They don't have a huge financial funds like Danone and Grameen Bank, and they are not working on price strategy. They're just trying to match. They're not low price strategy. They do have their own, which is trying to match the needs on the market. So this is one of the examples that using waste can get into different levels, right? But guys, let's face it, sometimes it's not about the model that we use. Sometimes it's about your clients. So, and one of the problems that we as an entrepreneurs have, we have a very limited visions because we do projections of ourselves in what is the market, right? And what we want to do. Like, let's face it, imagine I'm fascinated with shoes, right? And I think all the time in shoes. Therefore, the probability for me to launch my enterprise in shoes is very often because I'm not gonna take a look of the market in general. I just don't want to make business. I would like to start something that I like with. This is part of the advantages of being an entrepreneurship, right? So the probabilities for me to launch my own brand of shoes is very much alike. And the problem is the entrepreneurs that are launching into the market are the ones that have like middle classes that have access to information and maybe some access to financial type of banking services, right? Or my aunt or your mom is going to help you. Not all for all the people is like this. So that's what I don't know if you have heard of what is BOP, of what we call the base of the pyramid. And the base of the pyramid is, I don't like these, but I think this is exactly what it looks like. We're just trying to take a look what is happening underneath. Underneath, there's like 4 billion people that lives on $10 a day. So it's what happens usually whenever entrepreneurships are trying to get something really easy. I'm just going to create one luxury bag and that will cost me $10 and I will sell it for $400 on the markets. So you're trying to facilitate your supply chain, your distribution, you just want to focus on marketing on social media and send something quite easy and get huge margins of profits for one product. The point is like there's another way to do business. Whenever you select the bottom and then you focus on the economies of a way, but we barely think about this. So this is the case of Vision Spring. Vision Spring it's a social enterprise that was launched, and what they do is like basically they sell glasses. Well, they are not any type of glasses. They are like very cheap glasses. I don't know how much you have paid for your last type of glasses, but my wife has paid like 250 euros for the last one, and they have to change it every 2 years. She's like, why? So they are making glasses. They are selling you this little box of 10 for $13. That means each pair of glasses is cost you like maybe €1. And why are making these glasses so special? Because they're like doing a lot of volumes, and like if you have a specific type of myopia or astigmatism, right? You just can regulate it with a little circle that it's right next to your glasses. So it can be more concave or more convex depending what you need. So with these glasses, you don't need to go to your optometrist or ophthalmologist to adjust and tell you what it's like. You just do it. Book. You just put it another one whenever you cannot see it more. So this is the story of Jordan Caselo, which is the founder of Vision Spring. I think this is Vision Spring is another good example of how powerful it could be whenever you don't focus on the model. It might be the product that you can do, and it's not the product. It's going to be about your clients. So they have sold, distributed almost 7 millions of these pair of glasses. They have claimed that all the productivity have been increasing in 32%. The people. Sorry, can you hear me? Right.
Yes.
Yes.
It's working.
So the productivity has been increasing as well, and they have created a huge economic impact. I think it's very interesting how everything started, right? They thought this guy was blind and was not, and then they started to get more consumers, more distributors. And what I like about Vision Spring is like this type of marketing you're not gonna be learned in any business school, right? So they challenge all these conception, key elements, limitations about marketing, communication, production, distribution, and therefore innovation. This was completely practical innovation that was there. If we would like to compare with the Danone business model with Grameen Bank,
they do not have the financial model, but they do have the price strategy, right? And they are very innovative as well, doing what they know to do. It was an optometrist and ophthalmologist who started to work on these and social innovations. And therefore, it was very interesting because they are trying to attack something that if they succeed, you are not going to be there anymore. Your mission is for the market not to need you anymore. And it's a contradictory vision whenever you start to launch yourself into the market. So I think that's why even you don't have financial models and at the beginning is not amazing. There's a lot of things that you can do with a good price strategy, with innovating product and understanding that you need to invest on your supply chain. So before we go to the break, I would like to answer. That was very good question, Sang. The one like we always talk about CSR with people that enterprise that we do kind of a production, that we are traders, right? What happens with there's people, organizations like Google, Facebook. What are the CSR actions? In general terms, I would say the first thing they are doing two things. They're doing a lot of philanthropic issues, like I will donate to these to do something. And at the same time, I need to work because I have been recently criticized on green technologies, green data centers, because all the type of climate system that you need to get to cool down all your where data house services, it's huge. And therefore the carbon emission is huge. So the first thing I would say, they're working on a lot of green energies. That is the first thing. Now, if you take a look of what Zuckerberg has done, they work with, thanks to an association, they work a lot on education and social justice. Okay, so this is very interesting. But I think what they're missing to work more, it's in anti-monopolistic practices, right? In more audit and internal controls, and they don't work a lot with social dialogue. They don't get to work with workers that has been unionized. They usually people that are there, they work for a lot of hours. So usually the conditions, even they're well paid, they're not always respected. Therefore can have a lot of impacts on their health and the safetiness of their own workers. So there might be some critics whenever they say like they're violating fundamental labor rights. Nevertheless, they work a lot of energy, education, but they are kind of not taking attention on the anti-competitive practices, anti-monopolistic practices, and they are kind of exploiting their employees. So that's like the weights and cons. That was a good question. And then there was another message. Would be interesting to see videos on how are the challenges in the implement. I can tell you the big challenges of implementing these models is to first identify enterprises. They don't know that these social enterprises exist, and therefore they just wanted to do everything by themselves, and they do not have a clear vision about what are their limits. So, and whenever they have the limits, it's like, okay, we will do what we can, and we're not going to go with someone else. So I think social enterprise at this point, they are still kind of invisible for big companies, and there hasn't not been a lot of strategic alliances that the one that we can see on Grameen Bank and Danone. So, but that was a good thing. Guys, is that okay if we take a 15 minutes break, and I'll see you here at 15:50, okay?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so.
See you in a bit.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. Thank you for the answer.
Very interesting question, Sang, by the way.
Yeah, because here you mainly mentioned about the environment, so I don't. I heard about some activities, but I think it is a donate activity belong to another organization, not in the paper. Because now our classmates send the link. Very good.
No. That was honestly. No. Sang, as I've told you, this is a really interesting question because I mainly focus on examples that are easy to understand. Whenever we deal with technologies, I should have included one. No, that's why I took the time to answer, because I think it's very, very interesting, and how they can be violating fundamental labor rights. and they have anti-monopolistic practices, and I think that's it. Okay, I'll see you here in 12 minutes, okay?
Hello guys, are we there? At least some of you.
Yes, sir. We are here.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So I think we have a very interesting comment from Lan An, that all the videos of study case are nice and inspirational, but quite one-sided. I completely agree with you. and there was part of this at least the first part of this session was to like try to recover a little bit the hope that we have lost with all this type of analysis and saying like how companies they have to do better, right? The second question is like we don't have a lot of information about how these enterprises can work with big corporations, right? And I can tell you most of these social enterprises, they deal with a lot of management issues, even from the organizational structure. And there's still not a lot of information on this. I wish we could have more. I can tell you the first three main reasons why social enterprises are still struggling. First, their lack of vision on big scale. Second one, the lack of financial resources today, because you launch with this, you usually have a price strategies you have really low prices, and therefore you need to achieve a specific amount of volume in order to be more stable. And this is where most of the social enterprise that I know are there. And the third one is fiscal incentives. There's a lack of fiscal incentives because there's no a specific legal figure that can adapt to this reality. So I would say those are the three main issues that social enterprises are struggling with. And the objective of this session is not copy this model, no, because it's going to be really hard. It's impossible to say. Like, try to open your perspective, see these social enterprises like possible alliances, like the one that we have seen with Danone, and therefore you can foster this change in a different way that I've shown you how to do with CSR standards. So that was the main objective. Sang, you wanted to react on this?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Lan, Anne, do you agree? You don't? Lan, Anne, are you there? Okay, I wish. No, I call Hi Ti Lan An. Ha Ti Lan An. Sorry, Don, but thanks for. I don't know, Don. If you want to say something, please be my guest.
No, sir. No.
Okay, so we will keep on going, guys. So the first part, it was doing a little bit emphasis on social enterprises and how can you do alliances. This specific second part, it will be about circular economy. I don't know how you might be familiar with this, but circular economy, it was the inspiration of Evan MacArthur whenever she was sailing about on her boat around the world. So you are there for months and months, and then you're there by yourself. And it's not like you can go there and get some groceries in the middle of something, and it's not there like you just go and put your trash up onto the ocean, right? So it's a clear, I think it's a good image. How can we just be more sustainable whenever and everything starts at individual level? So let's say circular economy is based. Please, guys, keep your microphones off. So a circular economy is based on the principles that we need to put it out of the design, this waste and pollution, and keeping on the material and on the natural systems. I know that they looks very straightforward, but whenever you take out the waste from the design perspective and then you keep the products into use, then you are achieving these generating natural systems. So what do I mean with this? The first keyword on circular economy is waste. Waste, what is waste? Waste for you is like something that we don't use anymore and we just put it in somewhere else that we cannot see it. That doesn't mean it has been eliminated from the system. Therefore, if we would like to understand waste, thank you, the Webster Dictionary, we can say like useless material. Whenever it was produced to do something else that we find it with more value. Therefore, I think one of the definitions of waste is like, first, waste do not exist in nature because the waste for one, it's the prime material for the other ones, right? So, and I think waste is like the proven mistake, physical mistake that we have done an optimized system of production. If there's waste, is there something that we're not taking advantage fully from, right? And therefore, waste and pollution are not accidents. They're not happens because it happens, right? It's a consequence of decisions that we have done at the design stage of this product, or it can be service as well. So 40% of the population, the pollution on the world is done at the production state. It's not after life cycle. It's while you produce things. This is the 45% of the pollution on the world. So therefore, we have clearly a design problem. We're not designing in a very optimum way. And we need to redesign challenge. And that's why we have the principles of circular economy, because what we do, we just produce, right? We get the raw materials, we produce, we use it, and then we put it on the non-recyclable waste. And this is amazing, but this is the way that we've been technically working our business models. Late 80s, we need to recycle a little bit more, right? So instead of just using the raw materials, we do the produce, the use, and the things that we could, we recycle, right? And the ones that we cannot, we just put it on the non-recyclable waste, and this was incinerated, put it in the ocean, so buried on the earth. This is a little bit what we're used to do. This is so far how we can get. But if we understand that natural cycles can be an inspirational way of doing business, therefore, we will get the raw materials, the production we use, and whenever we recycle, we transform it and we put it back in use. So we have use all the time. And this is the optimization type of issues that I'm talking about whenever we think about production. So first, we can think about products, but whenever we optimize the way that we produce products, we're going to change not only the products, but our organization, because we will need a little bit more of infrastructure, right? It's not to produce, but it's also to retake and put it, and therefore we need infrastructure and people who will do it. Whenever we start to redesign as well the organizations, we need to remove everything again, and then we're trying to redesign the whole system constantly. And this is the key point about circular economy. I know that I'm just giving you the theoretical examples, but let's make something clear. One of the methods to do this redesign of waste is cascading. Cascading, I think it's a very powerful example because one thing, the water falls and remains, right? It has been utilized and falls again. So cascading, and if I would like to take one example, I will take the example of jeans that most of us know, and some of us are wearing it right now. So imagine, I don't know if you can see the pointer, but we're on the upright part of the slide whenever we can see the jeans. And this is amazing, right? So we're going down. We put it on the normal apparel. It doesn't sell. You put it on sales, and then customer get it. Customer can reuse it as many times, recycle it. And sometimes, instead of going to energy recovery, what we can do, we take these jeans after it has been used, recycled, whatever, repaired. We take it, and as far as they're made of 98% cotton, we can start to do some stuffing for furniture. Did you see? So we're selling it again. We're putting it back on the market whenever we can get more, a better price, right? Instead of just trash. So we do a minimum transformation, and then you put it as a furniture, right? And then, yes, again, you sell it. If not, you just put it on sales, and then customer gets it. Customer use it for some months, for some years, and whenever this furniture, it has been done, you take the stuffing, and then instead of being a stuffing from furniture, you transform this cotton, and then you start to do insulation with this. And then the insulation, again, you sell it on basically B2B, right? It can be insulation materials for construction, for NGOs, whatever. And whenever you get into this point, and then you has been used by the consumer, and the consumer just is not longer using it, you recover it, and then doing the extraction of all these biochemical feedstock, it's really easy because it's not longer a gene, it's just a piece of tissue basically. And then from this, you either can start to do this anaerobic digestion composting, right? Whenever you can produce biogas and whatever is left, you just put it back on the biosphere, and it can be used for feeding any type of farming. And from that, you can create new cotton cups that will make you do these jeans. So this is the idea on the old. It's not for the jeans, it's for the textile industry that the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is proposing. This is what is called cascading, transforming and putting back into the market with a different price. So it has a lot of benefits, mostly economic benefits, and this is what we call circular economy. Now, obviously, the big problem here is not the idea, it's not the redesign. It's just obviously redesign your organizations and the companies and the system, but without a proper regulation or fiscal incentive, all these distribution, transportation, and logistics are really, really complicated. At this point, as the system has been made, it's easier to buy another pair of jeans, and that's it, instead of just putting back. But we're not taking in accountability all the waste that we put on the market. And this is another thing that is going to be, hopefully, it will be regulated on the future. So the big problem with circular economy in products is this one, the logistics associated with this, transportation, distribution, and logistics in general. Now, nevertheless, there has been some marks, that, like some brands specific in jeans. This is a French jeans mark that has been working on it, right? And they call it the 1,083 kilometers because this is the longest distance that you can travel in France. So they're using all local sources, right? They do these type of effects on the jeans thanks to the laser, not thanks to the water. And they're working on something that they call the infinite jeans. It's not longer that they're working biological cotton and they are only working with tissues from France, but they're also working on forever. So I think it's a very ambitious goal, but they're working on this, and the main hint is the principles of circular economy. So I think this could be an interesting example of circular economy, or they're trying to get the circular economy done. Now, again, we have seen first a product, but it can be not always the product. It could be the model that you use on circular economy. And for this, I wanted to present you Thomas Rau. Thomas Rau is an architect, Dutch architect that has been said, he's been working with a lot of different buildings. And once he said, you know, I'm just sick about how these light bulbs work. I always have a lot of problems and then I create a lot of waste. So Thomas Rau, he went to Philips and said, you know, I just want to buy light from you, nothing else. I'm sick of buying light bulbs. I just want to pay for the service of light. And what he did is like, he went to Philips and said, you know, I need 2,000 hours of light from this building, and that's it. I don't want to do anything with it. You are going to be the one in charge of creating the product. Secondly, you're going to be in charge of taking the product that is not longer working and replacing it with a new one, and you're going to pay for the light. And say like, Philips is like, but why? No, like, and Philips was, okay, let's do this. So they started to make this joint venture whenever they can work together, whenever Philips was going to pay for the light they produce. And Thomas Rau and the architects in these buildings were just going to pay for the service of the light in general, not for the electricity. Did you see? So it has been another, this is a very interesting case study that has been shown on the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. If you are interested in to know more about circular economy, my advice is go there. There's a lot of cases in education, social products, technologies. And this is the case that we call selling light as a service, not as a product, as a light bulb. And Philips is okay, we're not going to commercialize the light bulb, but we're going to make the service of light. This is what we call paperlocks project, right? And in this case, we're transferring the risk to the producer, right? Because if you don't do good products that we need to replace every day, you're going to pay for that cost, right? So it's in your interest to create products that would last longer. That's the first thing. The second thing, if we need to upgrade or recycle, you need to design it easier from the beginning. If you are going to take the waste of a light bulb that doesn't work and you needed to put it back in place, it's on your interest to design something that will be easy to upgrade and it will be easy to recycle. And now, if you are not doing cost-efficient light bulbs, it's going to be paying you. So it's on your interest also to do this the maintenance issue, and like there has to be energy efficient light bulbs, right? So it's kind of reversing the logistics, right? And then these increase the value of waste that much because it's the one that produce, the one who's going to get the waste. So they need in their behalf, on their interest, to produce less as possible. And then this is whenever we start to enable what we call the recycling loop. The one that produce is the one to recycle. Therefore, it's on their interest to change the design. And so far on the system as we know it, we have two of them, maybe three, because we have the producer, the one who collects it, and the one who try to recycle the materials, right? So here is just one single actor that can communicate internally in a more efficient way. What happens after that was before the first column is old, right? The energy type of consumption. It was like more than 400, like that. It was 100%. And after just a few months that they're like, Philips was able to experiment with this, they reduced it 60%. So that was a huge energy reduction. And it was on behalf of, on the interest of Philips, because the more they reduce, the bigger their profits margins will be. So I think that's a very interesting case for Philips. And they're like, now they started, after this experiment was done, they started to launch out like how they practice circular economy. And they have done all these cascading issues, right? How whenever they show how are they moving into the linear model into the returning loops, how they can dematerialize, optimize, service, refurbish, part recovery, recycling, etc. So I think that's one of the most interesting cases that we have seen on the market with big enterprises that actually are trying to move into, I'm not going to sell them the light bulbs. I'm moving into selling the products, into selling the services, which is, I think, is going to be a huge discussion on the next 10 years. And specifically, now they're doing more and more efforts. For example, whenever you go to the airport in Amsterdam, you can see that all this Amsterdam has been lighted with these type of services. So they just want to minimize the environmental footprint and create instant savings thanks to this story with Philips circular lighting. And this is what they call the future of lighting, right? They have a lot of issues with sustainability. You have data available, right? You have you have this blockchain whenever you can see all these transactions that improves the relationship with all your clients, with your suppliers. And they understand that lighting alone can account for a huge amount of money whenever you have an industrial energy bill. So that's why they want to reduce one, and they've seen that they're the only ones on the market that are doing it, and they're gaining a lot of market shares on this, at least on the industrial side. So they're moving into the services, and what they're planning to do is this within the cities. And then here you can see the circular benefits. They have created a specific light bulb, right? It's really easy, upgradable. It's really easy to disassembly, right? It's non-destructive at all. It's really easy to maintain. It's made of recycling, and it can be recycled as well, and has a modular design. So it can be, so they move on the usual light bulb that you can use in industrial side to someone that it's At the beginning, it was costing a little bit more because it was a huge investment, but then after it was paying off thanks to all these benefits. Again, they're selling the service in different ways, and here we can see it on the airport of Schiphol on Amsterdam. Again, the idea of this is an invitation to redesign constantly. You start with the products, right? But remember that whenever you need to move what you do for a living, it has a great impact on the organization. Specifically, logistics are going to be more complicated, right? Like the transportation, distribution, and storage. And then you need to develop other know-how. It's not just producing. Now it's producing and this assembling to get it into the cycle line again. And that eventually will change the way that you understand the system. So circular economy, I think it's a powerful tool. It's kind of complex to understand, but I think is one of the most powerful ways to achieve sustainability, and that can come from a CSR perspective. So it's an invitation to keep redesigning once again. Guys, do you have any questions about these 15 minutes that I have given you in circular economy? Do you think it can be applied to organizations or not?
So I think it's very interesting, sir. So it gave me some new idea for our project and our presentation. Thank you, sir.
Specifically, I think exactly whenever you have a product like the case on Lego, I think could be good. And now for the ones that are working, for example, with Sungroup, the circular economy can be applied to the buildings industry again. It has been some issues about it's not only make it green, you can make it circular again. So take a look at these ones. Any other comment or questions that you might have with circular economy? No?
Yes.
Yes. Ronan, yes.
I have a question about the concept. If I just want to know if the concept is limited for the company of services, because we talked about production and materials, and it seems to me that this could be in some way limited for the company of services as they are not producing materials. I don't know if I have well understood.
Yes, yes. And why? Ronan, yes, you're right. The principles of circular economy can be applied easier to companies that commercialize products on the market. Moving from products into model, yes. And whenever you're selling a service, no. This is the principle of circular economy, no, because technically what is the waste on the service industry, Ronan? What is the waste definition of it? It can be CO2 emissions whenever you move from one place to another. But I think it's, as you said, one of the limitations is it gets into the product whenever they want to move into the model. Service industry, in this case, rather than transportation and maybe green data centers, because all the data and the information that coming on and off, I don't see a lot of applications on that industry specifically. But that's a very good question, by the way.
Okay, clear. Thanks.
Yes, because it's not clear for me. That's a very good question. Circular economy and services. Let's do something, Ronan. In my first glance, I would say no, there's no link, or it's very limited. I'll take a look, see what we can do. I'm writing it, services and circular economy. If we can find something, I think it would be very interesting.
Okay.
Thank you. Some other questions or comments? No, not even in the chat. Let me check in the chat. I see. Okay.
No,
yes. So, Lan, out of curiosity, since you're an entrepreneur, have you had first-hand experience? I have had some first-hand experience with some social enterprises, and I can tell you that they are like mostly not well organized. I'm not saying that my enterprise are like the top of the top, but usually social enterprises, it's kind of a mess to work with them at the beginning. They're like people who likes to do things and they're really good at what they do. That doesn't mean they're good with management or communication or whatsoever. And specifically, I haven't got the choice, the opportunity to work on circular economy innovations, specifically because on the hospitality industry and here in Paris, we've been working with creating different dishes thanks to the waste of other dishes. And then we have invited different chefs to work on this. And it's very interesting how you can do amazing dishes with the skin of the bananas, for example. Those are kind of things that are of the skin of, like, doesn't matter which type of fruit, basically, or vegetables, you can do like interesting dishes. Out of that, it's hard to apply circular economy innovations in services, as we have just spoken with Ronan, at least in my case, with the hospitality industry. What else we've been doing is sometimes we do, there's another association that is working with migrants that are like, they become chefs. So it's really interesting how you start with this mixity of cultures and this idea of circular economy. You can create dishes that are coming out of nowhere, basically. It's things that for us, like, you never use. These guys use it. They just do like 2-3 twisted, very simple sometimes, and then you can get amazing things with high nutrition rates, by the way. So no personal circular economy innovations as an entrepreneur. I think this is because of the industry, of the hospitality industry. It's hard to get these type of issues. I know that, for example, on the electronic side, they've been working on making the first circular economy headphones, and the circular economy rate so far, I think it's 70%, because it has a lot of really micro components. So, and as far as we need to catch up all the technology behind, it's hard, but I think there's a little hope at the end of the tunnel. Good question, Flanan. Any other question or comment, guys, about social enterprises, circular economy? Have you ever seen it before? Have you heard this in other classes? Corporate governance, suppliers, IT? No? Okay, and this we do compost on the restaurants and the hotels. Okay, so I think for the rest, I just guys, really no questions, no more. Maybe last chance.
So people sign and they don't want to ask.
It's completely fine. I'm gonna go by groups, and then we can speak within your group, guys. It has been a pleasure so far. I know that on the general meeting it's hard to express ourselves, so I appreciate that you're making this effort. I know English is not our mother tongue, and then we struggle to say things. So thank you very much to trying to participate. Thank you very much for your patience. I know that sometimes I get very enthusiastic with all these issues. So thank you very much to your reactions and your working group. I think I've seen what you have done so far, and then I think you're kind of very implicated into the project. It's, as a professor, I can tell you it's something that it creates a great pleasure. Now, I just wanted to say you a little bit of your final project. Okay, how are you going to be evaluated on Saturday? I know that you're struggling as well with your work, family life, and then we're just going to work on the weekends. My apologies, we didn't have a lot of schedules to choose from. So you put it there before the session starts. Okay, that's the deadline. Before the session starts, you put your final project there. Now, how are you going to be evaluated during these sessions, during the last session? You're going to be evaluated 25, how pertinent your slides are, right? Every single part that we have seen, I will analyze it, how pertinent it was. Now, the second thing, how coherent are these different things that we have done? So pertinence, we put it like how good your analysis and your reflection and your critical point of view has been in every part. Second aspect is like, I would like to see the coherence of all this. how you might try to match the link between the different sessions that we have had. By the way, you're not obliged to add anything on this side. I'm just saying specifically for this session. I think it's going to be hard to choose, but if you see that there might be a social enterprise that might help you, do it. If not, you have all the liberty to do it. Now, 25% is going to be about creativity. I need you to evaluate you how much you can take the risk and thinking out of the box. You have a fresh mind, right? And then you have a lot of fresh information that can come, and then you're sensible to it. Express it, and then express it in a way of risk, obviously by creating reasonable hypotheses on pertinent information. And the third and the fourth variable, how you're going to be evaluated, is communications. I need you to be good in communicating. I know they're really good at making beautiful slides. I've seen it. But what about the key ideas inside of these slides? So sometimes you know how beautiful it was, but how clearly you can express yourself. Okay. And now for this, I would like you to think that you have 10-minute maximum. Okay. I really need you to respect the time, because I think some of you, it's really easy to put all the information and try to arrange at the end to see a minimum of coherence. I really would like you to make an effort. What is the important information? What is the crucial information? And then see if we cannot put something in annexes. Use annexes as much as necessary, okay? But on the body of the presentation, I would like to see something that is clear, and keep it simple. It usually works. So I will be kind of strict with the limit amount of time that we will get. And this is how you're gonna work. Remember, group 1 to 7 will present the first 2 hours on the Saturdays, on Saturday, and group 8 to 14 will present on the next 2 hours. Okay, so we will do 2 cohorts for you not to be there the full 4 hours. So we're just gonna do 2 hours and 2 hours. Okay, and the point is, I really would like to be strict on time, because we need a minimum of discussion. And I think the other groups, if you're able to be there, ask questions, do comments, because sometimes that may be clear for me, and then you ask the question or do the comment that might enable a good discussion. And this is what we like as a group. Okay, so remember, groups 1 to 7, the first 2 hours. Okay, and then the groups 8 to 14 in the second cohort. Okay?
Yeah, it's clear, sir.
Okay, awesome. Now, guys, my lectures stop here. This is, I think this is going to be the last time that we are all together. So again, congratulations, because you made it. I know that you're doing great efforts in it. I know it's not always easy to work, to try to pay attention. Then you have your family, you're at work, and it's night, it's late, you're tired. So honestly, thank you very much for keeping up on this. Again, patience and attention, it was a key point for us to develop this class. The rest is going to depend on you. Okay, you can foster the change that you want to see in your world. I think enterprises, they have a huge resources that we can mobilize. Don't forget it, and take the risk, and don't be shy to say things whenever you need to say it. Okay, that's a key point about this article. Whenever we say, like, sometimes we feel frustrated because we don't say things, because we don't, but find a way. And don't feel frustrated if you don't say the things. Find a way to do it. I think expressing yourself is very important. So remember that the bigger the challenge is, the better the opportunity. And we have a huge challenge in front of us. So we have a lot of opportunities for us to change what we would like to see, what we want to change. Now, I would like to ask you one last favor. I would like you to evaluate the course in a very simple way. And then I'm just going to finish the session and go group by group. If you can go to menti.com, and I need you to type this code 37096067, and then I would like you to tell me whatever you think about the presentation. I mean, the quality of the slides. What do you think? As for me as a professor, it's completely anonymous. If you don't like it, just put 0. If you like it, put 10. How do you like the dynamics, the type of works that we needed to do every class, and then if that makes sense for you? And by the end, I would like you to see to evaluate your colleagues. I know that communication it's difficult, but I just need to see how do you stand out with the different colleagues that you have had. So if you don't mind, go to this site and let me know your impressions about the course. And of course, if you want to say something on send me a mail or on the chat, that will be more than welcome, and that benefits us to, at least to me, try to improve my the classes that we give.
Thank you so much, Professor.
Sang, believe me, it was my pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And guys,
So,
Thanks a lot.
I think it's
so
strategic that I'm sorry.
You're so interested to how to give knowledge to us, and also I have very good idea and a good good mind and good picture about the CSR, because I share my experience on that. Yesterday we also have a training from our company for newcomers about CSR, and also we had the same situation that a lot of questions from presenter, but no one feedback. So at the end of the meeting, the HR manager have an email and feedback to us that we should have a more communication, more interaction, and share the idea during the meeting, during the lesson like this. So I think that not only knowledge, but the interaction between the teammate, classmate, and professor is always good. You can ask any question, you can say anything about the idea during. So the more questions we have, the more knowledge we have, and also I'm gonna say the relationship between the classmate, between the professor, and maybe in the future we also meet again. So it's really good that we can share our idea, our thinking, that normal thing to together, because we learn online like this, very less interaction between members. Yeah,
I know. I wish we could have done this in a physical way. I'm just sitting here on my desk, but whenever we go to classes, we can ask, and I see you in the faces, and then you ask, and it's a completely different way. And nevertheless, the situation doesn't allow us, but we can do whatever. We try our best. And so please, the ones that haven't evaluated, go for it, because I just have 30 something evaluations, and then at least we're 84 that are here. So guys, what it happens, I will stop now the general meeting, and then
mute.
I'm a mute. I'm not a mute.
No, you're not mute. But could you repeat the number, please?
The number of what?
To
sure.
grade. Or maybe put it in the chat.
On the chat, it's menti.com and type 3706H67. So here for the ones, thank you, Maxence. The ones that haven't done it, do it. And now we have a very, Melisande asked if you have everyone in the group need to speak during the presentation. I wish you do, because I see that there's a kind of a minimum of a team collaboration. If you consider that, like, I wish you could do it, but if you don't, you're not gonna be punished by this. Okay, it's something that I wish to see, but it's not mandatory again. And I just, at the beginning of the presentation, the ones that are not going to speak, if you can tell me why you're not going to speak, I completely, and you tell me, you know, we're very shy to do it in English. I respect this. Okay.
Could you please go back? There are some other questions.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, from the other question, we only need to choose one material. Also, with small steps, food waste. We need to clarify one material issue and formulate one project around the issue. Is that correct? Yes, Yes, I would say choose between 1 and no more than 3 material issues. Okay, the ones that you consider the most important ones, and move on that. I'm not expecting you to do like a full vision. Between 1 and 3 material issues maximum, right? Now, should we use this guideline from syllabus to prepare of our presentations? Yes, you can use these guidelines from the syllabus to prepare your presentations. Organization learning stage, that's a good thing. And then CSR standard, another good thing. And business model innovation, and that's a good thing. Okay. Organization learning, we have seen how implemented the second one, the case of CSR governance on Unilever. I think it's an important one. So to give you the vision, right? And then CSR standards, and then see what you can do. I don't know if you will have time to add something on this business model innovation, but if you can come up with something to reinforce your project, please use it. The mandatory ones will be SADC, will be CSR governance, and therefore the vision of your project, and CSR standards. This one, it's optional. Thanks a lot, your knowledge. Should everyone know? Thank you so much.
Questions about relating
Yes.
to presentation. So about the CSR standard that we will present, we will choose only standard that relate to the materiality issues, exactly. Or we will present all the standards that company adopted.
That's a very good point. Usually, whenever you want to propose the adoption of a CSI standard, you need to understand what is the current situation. Imagine that you would like to propose, we need us to, thanks to the material issue, we need to get certified by ISO 14000, and they already have it. So usually, whenever you will propose another CSI standard, it's because you have at least a glance of what they do. Okay, so I would say it's a little bit of this too. Is that okay, Hue? Now, Eleanor has asked a very interesting question. Shall we present the company again? No, you just maybe one slide about the company. I know in which companies you've been working, and go straight to the materiality issue. Okay, and this is going to be the first slide that I would like to see. The material issues that you have selected. If you have changed the materiality issues from the 5th session to this one because your arguments, your critical mind has been evolved, and then you want to reduce or increase, it's entirely up to you. But I would say the first one I think it will be good to see is the material issues, and then the organization and learning stage, the CSR governance with the vision, and then the CSR standards. Okay. So basically, it's just one slide from session 5, and then session 5, 6, no, session 4 actually, session 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9, if it's possible. Okay. Any other general question that might help the other ones, guys?
Yes, I have a question.
Please.
It's about the SADC work. We have the thing about organizational learning, so we have to put the issue on compliance, managerial, strategic, etc. But do we have to also put the issue on the issue maturity, latent, emerging, consolidating?
Yes, I think
because we don't really study that.
Let's put it in this way. If there was one quick slide that I think I skipped really fast. Let's put it in this way. If there's no law, hasn't been institutionalized. So, and if it's not new, it's not latent. So usually most of the materiality issues that you have done, it's between on the 2nd and 3rd stage.
Okay.
Okay. But we can go and discuss about these in a second if you want, Eloise, whenever I'll go with your group. But I would say yes, I think, because if not, it's going to be hard to situate it on general terms.
Okay.
Good question. Thank you so much. It's new. I agree, guys. One of the things is like CSR is not, as we have seen it, it's only have been limited to big companies. So I wish I could have more examples of CSR and sustainability with the small companies, with the small and medium enterprises, but they're like focusing on growth. and they do not focus on growth correctly. So we have little evidence on this, and there's not too much information available. And I know in developing countries, like in my case in Mexico, or it could be Vietnam, it's a thing that has been always a little bit confusing with philanthropy. Philanthropy, remember, is just donation, and then that's it. It's, as Mohammed Yunus said, it's just $1 that goes really fast. But whenever you enable this little business model that comes enough and generate and create impact, this is whenever we're achieving into something like CSR sustainability wants. Okay. Okay, guys, any other questions? No? It was a pleasure to see you all again. I would say again, groups 1 to 7. It's gonna be the hours, the first 2 hours, okay, first 2 hours, and then groups 8 to 14, the last 2 hours, okay. Obviously, this is gonna be on a Saturday morning. Guys, my apologies if you are gonna see kids jumping around on my side. It's Saturdays, there's no school. I got a last minute cancellation of my babysitter, so just want to prevent in case for you not have any surprises, okay? So again, it was a pleasure. Remember, be the change that you would like to be. The rest will depend on you. And I'm sure that you can do some good changes in the future or today on your companies. So again, it was a pleasure, and I'll go and see you individually by groups to see how we can just move on this your final project, okay?
Yes, thank you, Professor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. See you in a bit.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good day.